Down, 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 down. Kilted balls.
Yeah, see, I got it that time. I had to pause for a second.
Did you? I can't hear you at all when I'm doing my theme song.
You can't?
No, no.
Missing out on
So
some pretty amazing stuff.
nice. So I think it was last week. That's what I think it was. I could be wrong. But you mentioned that Gary V said people should use YouTube minis maybe instead of some of the other stuff we use.
Yes, he was talking about that.
And we've started doing that on Kilted Balls, giving updates. By we, I mean mostly me.
Yeah, I tried to. I had like terrible, I actually recorded the video and then my internet was terrible.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, I forgot you were out
my
of
whole
out
life
of
is
commission.
crazy. Yeah.
Well, I just want to point out that like I don't know if views is like all of that jazz, but like we have one video that has 1,000 views on it.
Awesome.
The one I posted today has 288 views,
Hmm.
7 likes. Like I don't know why we want to increase necessarily all of our viewers, except we're trying to help people, and that would be, the more people we hit, the more we can help, and so that's pretty cool. But the YouTube Minis is bringing people along, right?
Yeah,
People
that's
are
that's super awesome.
they're seeing our content. So yeah, Gary V, good advice. I think that's more than we're getting on our TikTok, more views.
Yeah. Well, remember the one, and did we talk about it last week or did we talk about it off the air? The video that I made a Pip, and
Oh
I
yeah, yeah, that was
did
off
the
air, I think.
short, I did the TikTok, I did my personal Facebook and my personal Instagram, and yeah, the YouTube mini reels was definitely the highest.
So as again, the whole point of the podcast is to take you through our entrepreneurial journey and
Hmm.
kind of let you know what we're seeing and what's working out there.
Yep.
So right now, YouTube Mini seems to be working pretty darn well. So
Yeah.
if you're looking at doing that, another thing I started experimenting with that was from another thing that we watch is Crypto Lifer, and this isn't going to go well for Anchor, but I downloaded this the other day. And so
Nice.
this is kind of interesting.
Okay, so
So
you ended up getting it.
it's
And
free.
if anyone
Free.
lifer, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. Now the problem with doing freeze, you can only look at one thing at a time. So
Okay.
this is Doge because I'm doing a Doge short right now.
Hmm.
Um, but and I have I'm still learning how to read it. What I think right now compared to earlier, like this blue means there's not a lot of activity going on. These are all the trades. When I turned this on right as we started to film, it was way down here. And so I was like, oh, maybe that price is dropping. But now I think the price is going up. I'm using
The 15,
Binance for
the
this, so you can choose your
15 minute
thing.
looks like it's getting ready to curl, and the 1 hour is still facing, well, looking like it's going down. So I didn't close my short that I had because the 1 hour was still
Well, and
looking
you
like,
can look here, like on the right, it's showing you the volume that it's been all day. So you can see over here on the right where all the volume is today.
yeah.
And you can see that it was down here at the start. But the big thing is this is all blue. And I don't know,
What
like,
do you have
like
that on? What's your time frame on that?
this is 5 minutes.
Okay, cool.
And I never changed it. And just so that's just what it naturally was. And I think I can scroll back here a little bit. So I'm trying to zoom out people
So
for you.
if anyone, well, even if you're watching this, and you're not sure what it is the book map that Crypto Lifer talks about. And
Yes.
if you're listening, it's just dots in the trades of what we're looking at as Doge, and like there, it's how big of a dot it is, and it's either green or red. So it's interesting. Like it shows the leverage, correct?
Yes. Supposedly it shows you your leverage, it shows you the volume. If you
Uh,
look over here, it's showing you like the first line here is the current order book. So like right now, if you look at this, it looks to me like there's way more orders. Well, there was a second ago, way more orders that were cheaper, right?
mhm.
and now it's shifting because a lot of those got bought up, right? But you can see it curling as it does that. And
Yep.
then this is showing the volume since I turned this on. So you can see right here is where most of the volumes happened, right around 0.0868.
What's interesting is that it looks, I mean, if you look at trading view at the 5 minute right now, the
Mhm.
stochastics RSI, which is one indicator that we look at, is way below the data line. Like way
Meaning that it
below.
should pump back up a little bit, right?
Like it's gonna curl up.
And so let me see if I can get this down. I can't remember when I turned on Doge. So I'm trying to shrink this down. There we go. So now you can kind of see as we get closer to like 5 o'clock,
Mhm.
right? You can see it's a little bit more red and orange in here,
Yeah.
right? That means that it was a little like that's where most of the stuff was going on. So it's a
Hmm.
heat map, right? So there's a lot of things to look at here and a lot to uncode. And they have tutorials and stuff, which of course I haven't done, right?
Yep.
And I need to do. But you can definitely, and you can look over here and say, okay, look, this is where a lot of action is. See how it's all red there?
Mhm.
And you can see here, look, all of those things happening way down here. So
Yeah.
this is going to drop. This is what I'm trying to figure out, right? Is it going to drop to here because that's where all the action is? And then there's one little pump right here.
Hmm.
See that? And so that's what's on the books right now. And so
Yeah.
there's nothing really on the books in this middle area.
No.
And so anyway, I think I'm as far back as I can go, right?
Okay.
But you can definitely see where it's redder here and bluer out here. And so that can also help you set your like limits and stuff,
Yep.
right? You can tell where it's going to go and then I can zoom back in pretty easily. And you can change this to candles or what have you,
Yep.
right? So, but like I said, you can see that heat signature where it's going. So anyway, I've been playing with that a little bit. I looked at it before I chose Doge because I was like, okay, it's looking like it might drop. It hasn't yet, but I just did a 3S.
Yep.
And if you're like, why'd you do the 3S token? Well, a few reasons. The first one is the 3S token is a safer token. You don't get liquidated on the token. So you can get pretty low on them, right?
Hmm.
But they're just like a normal coin, but they're configured to be either a 3S or a 3L.
Yes. We've talked about those. KuCoin has them. I'm well, unfortunately in a long trade for one because I thought Bitcoin was going to go back up and it has not. It was at 45,000. So we're gonna see what holding a S token for the long haul what actually
Oh
happens.
yeah, yeah. I have a Solana short that I think I did like, and here's the other thing that's nice about these is there's no like minimum buy-in, right? So I think I did a short for like 30 or 40 bucks on Solana and I just got the 3S token. And since like right now it's worth $2, I think, or $3.
Darn
So,
it.
but I was learning and figuring it out and Solana took off because me and Solana are bitter enemies. So,
I think so.
hmm hmm
So yeah, I think that's super cool and it's really interesting and I mean Doge, well you have a short on Doge, correct?
I bought the 3S token.
Yes.
I
Yes.
have a I have a short bot on SHIB, and I talked about that in my YouTube mini a little bit. So today's mini was about why I like trading bots sometimes, and my trading bot was a 3S, but it wasn't the 3S token; it was just a 3S.
Yeah.
But SHIB is like I don't know. That bot is down overall. Let me see if I can pull it up. Like maybe it's even right now, right? So maybe the bot's running even. It's down a percent and a half. The bot is overall, but it's
Yeah.
4% up on the grid. So my position has increased by 4%. And so, yeah, it's down by a percent, but that means if it even gets back to the price that I started at,
Hmm.
then I'm up 4%. And and by doing a 3S, you're your liquidation is so far away.
Yes, exactly.
And so you can just let that sit there and arbitrage and make you grid profits, knowing that someday SHIB is going to go down.
Yeah.
And if it gives me my 10 or 20% tomorrow, great. And if it takes it 2 weeks, okay. Um, which brings us to the next thing that we talked about in a mini, and you and I talked about a
Mhm.
little bit, is when do you pull profits and stuff, and when do you not? Um, so one of our goals, we've talked about this a lot, is we're always looking for 10%,
Yep.
right? And somebody commented on one of our videos and said, "Listen, you guys should be going 3%." Right?
Really?
Yeah, the comment was it was a well thought out comment, but it was like, listen, if you do 3%, um, that's X amount a week, that's X amount a year, and you can retire in 2 years. And I
Fair.
commented back, and I'm like, that is a great point, except I don't want to retire. So I, I go, that's the only big problem with that. I go, but you're right that if you can pull out a quick three all the time, that's true. And one of the things we talked about off air, and I put in a mini, is I always think 10%. I'd really like to make 10%,
Hmm.
but here's where the timing comes in, and that's the problem with that SHIB bot is 10%. If it takes you 2 days to make 10%, and you
Yeah.
could have done two other trades at 5%,
Mhm.
you would be better off on the two trades with 5% if you're compounding, if you're putting everything back into those trades.
Mhm.
So that's the same thing with the 3%, right? So if I could have done a 3% trade, 3 days in a row, 4 days in a row, that's better than a 10% that took me 3 or 4 days. So this SHIB is doing fine for me,
Mhm.
but it's been running for 2.5 days. So by
Yeah.
the time it hits 3 days, I would have been better off just doing a 3%.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things with the bots. They seem to be a bit slower.
Hmm.
But I mean, it is a good point because we even talked about it. Well, I shoot for 10, but a lot of times I'll take five. My Bitcoin was at 8 earlier, or no, it was at 11 earlier, and my
Hmm.
internet was bad, 11%, and I didn't take it. And then I looked at it was at 8. So I was like, well, I mean, in looking at the charts, it looked like it was going to move a bit more. So I wasn't messing with it. And I mean, right now it's 3
Yeah.
and you don't know. I guess the hard part is with the 3%, and even if you're doing the 3% a day, like we talked about, 5% a day and 10% a day, it can be insane. But if you're not doing anything with that money, then it's zero.
Right. It's a zero that day. So like right now for the past 2 or 3 days, I've been at zero, which is why I had an ETH short. And as soon as my ETH short, I was looking at today going, you know what? I missed a wick because I didn't set my take profit. So then today I'm like, you know what? I'm just setting a take profit, and I don't even remember what I set it for. I just
Yeah.
picked something where I thought the wick might go. And so I picked it, and then one time I got on my phone and it was gone.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, and I think it was like 9%. Well, that's better than what I'd been doing, which was sitting on it for 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
right? So I
But
got my 9%, and then I instantly took that money and put it in this Doge short.
okay.
And, the Doge short's been kind of holding even for me.
Hmm.
But again, that's kind of the thing, right? Like I'm hoping that thing will get me up to 3%, that Doge will drop a little bit here. And again, it's a 3S token, peeps. So all I need is Doge to go down 1%.
Hmm.
And that's not very much when you consider the fact that Doge was up a lot today.
A ton.
It was up
Well,
a lot. And so I only need it to go down 1%. So I just need it to be up a lot, but just a little bit less. And then I've made my 3% and I can get into another trade, which
yeah.
brings up the next thing that we were talking about. One of the things about 10% is the math is really easy.
Hmm.
If you make 10% per trade, which granted is hard sometimes, right? You got to really do your technical analysis, but I feel like when we're firing on all cylinders, you and I, we hit 5 to 10% pretty easily. It's
Hmm.
when we're stupid that we lose it, right?
And,
And
and I have something to say about being stupid when you're done
yes.
making a point.
Okay. But you follow the rules, and we tend to be working all right if we're following the rules. And if you do 10% in 30 trades,
Mm-hmm.
so I was thinking to myself 30 days, but that's not true because like this one's taken 3 or 4 days. But in 30 trades, you will 10x your money.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if you start with $100 and you compound it every time, you'll get up to 10 times that. So you'll be at 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start with $1,000, you'll be at $10,000 in 30 trades. And some days it's like right now where we go 2 or 3 days without making a trade. And that's why it's better to just take the 5 or take the 3 and get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
But you and I have had days where we've done 5, 10% trades,
Yes.
right? And so that's why I say 30 trades. You don't want to say days because some days you'll have a big gap and other days you'll make it move. And I also think that's why it's important um, to be doing multiple trades, right? Like if you have 10 bots going and 2 or 3 tokens going, now you're multiplying that multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you can get through a little bit faster.
And also why it is important to set stop losses, because if the trade isn't going your way, you're getting out losing only 20% or losing 25 or whatever you set your stop loss at.
Right.
I do have to publicly declare, I said it to you. I said we need to stop getting liquidated. And
Hmm.
then I went and got liquidated twice. I mean, each was 100. It still sucks though. It's $100. Those are $200 trades that I don't have anymore.
Right. And if you had done even 50%, you'd still have $100. And that was the one that kicked me in the pants. The last time I got liquidated, it was at 50%. And I was like, I need to just exit this. I don't think I'm going to get liquidated, but I'm just going to exit it because I can make my percents
Mhm.
and just get out of the trade. And I didn't do that. And then I got liquidated. And I was like,
That's
son
what
of a
was
gun.
happening with me. And then this weekend, I mean, just not paying attention. I just woke up one morning, ETH, was when ETH and Bitcoin both went way up over the
Yeah.
weekend, and I just wicked out.
Right, and those wicks can get you, and that's the reason why I don't set stops a lot is because I'm afraid of getting wicked.
Mhm.
But even with this 3S token, I haven't set my take profit or stop loss yet, and I should, because here's the thing: if it goes up another 5%,
Mhm.
I'd be better off bailing and reinvesting it right away
Mhm. Yeah.
because I'll take that loss in the books, but I'll reinvest it right away. And then when I get my short, it's my short that I originally planned plus another 25%. I'm going to make up my loss, is the point.
As opposed to just adding extra money back in like we did that one night.
Right. Like instead of just adding money in, or like I forget, I think it was Lifer or somebody else at one point said, listen, if you're down, you can talk about this better. If you're down 25%, now you've got to go up 35% to make your money.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's really hard to go up 35%.
We
So
did.
better to get out at 25%, invest it in something that's going to make you 10%, get your
Mhm.
10%, do it again, get your 10%, and you're pretty much back to even. And you're not waiting for that one to go up 35%. You got
Yes.
to know when to take the L. That's one of our rules that you can see if you ever are allowed into our Discord. You got to take the L sometimes.
Yeah. You do. And yeah, I need to I need to set stop losses. That's
Yeah.
got to be the last time. It's silly.
Right, right. Yeah, it's a silly thing, and I've been doing it. The nice thing is right now is with the 3S token, I'm not as worried because I'm not going to get liquidated.
Yeah, exactly. So I do know, I can't remember if we talked about it, but you were going to do some stocks as well. Are you doing stock bots or just doing some stocks along with your crypto?
Nope, I'm just doing stocks, and I didn't really look at it today because I was trying to day trade and I was all grumpy. Because the thing that's nice about stocks is you can set screeners to hit what you want, right?
Okay.
So kind of like how I try to sort through the crypto assets to figure out which ones I want to short or long.
Mhm.
This does it for me. And so I got it narrowed down to like 12 the first day. And so I picked one, went with it, and it's been doing fine, right? I don't know what it is now, but the last time I looked, it was like 3%.
Mhm.
Again, probably should have taken it. I don't know what it is now, but it wasn't at my 5 or 10, so I was like, no. And so the next day I was like, oh, I wonder if I should have sold it. I wonder if any of those other 12 went up. Two of the other 12s had gone up 8%.
Nice.
And so I'm sitting there going, okay, this is a great example, like we've talked about, is
Mhm.
okay, and I should just keep playing the system and seeing, but instead of doing one trade, I should have traded all 10 of them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And none of them were going to go down. And I would have had two 8% and a 3%,
Mhm.
then redone the filter and done it all again.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
that's a good idea. We'll have to talk about that off the air because I'm sure there's some fun stuff.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Uh, I'm gonna make it a quick story, but
yeah,
I was trying to think on how to work this in. Well, kind of two stories. So let me start off by saying we went to just outside of Nashville. We are more in the country of Tennessee. It was super fun. The kids, aunt, uncle, and grandpa. So it was my
nice.
first time meeting him, and they hadn't seen him in a couple years. So it was a lot of fun. And they have a new uncle, he was a really cool guy, techie guy. He was working a lot, so we didn't. I mean, we talked a little bit, but the last day I was talking to him, and I was like, "Oh, what do you think of blockchain?"
Yeah,
And he's like, "Oh, I really like blockchain." I was like, "Oh, did you notice my arm?" And he said, "Oh, yes, I did." Now, first off, I have to call him out. If you see somebody he's not into NFTs, but
okay.
if you recognize someone's tattoos as being NFTs, why wouldn't you say something? So
I'm with you on there.
you're
Why
listening,
why
wanted to
would
give you
you?
a hard time, but he did not. He's like, "Oh, I did see those, and I recognized him." But yeah, really cool guy. He got a lot of his ETH at $70. So he's been
Oh,
a little while. He has 150 staked, so I was super excited for him actually through like an actual Ethereum node, or I don't know what Ethereum calls it, but
and he got
it's
him at 70?
he no, he did get he first got him at 70.
Oh,
Then
first. Okay.
because the price went down, so he sold a bunch of them. And then
Right,
he
right.
went on with a price. I didn't ask like what he got the rest of them for, but he's still dollar cost average, which is super smart. I mean, as far as if you're looking at crypto as a long haul, putting each paycheck, he says he has a little bit that comes out, it automatically buys some, because I told him, I like Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA,
Yes, yes.
XRP, and he's like, those are some of the similar ones that he buys as well. So I'm super excited for him. I mean, he's a bit of a younger guy. He's in an amazing position, if you ask me,
Right.
to have that ETH and to have, other crypto as well. So it was cool to talk to him and stuff. I'm looking forward to, talking with him more. Hopefully he catches a show here and there. And yeah,
Heck
so
yeah,
that
that'd
was,
be awesome. I hope he tunes in sometime.
yeah. And so on that as well, it's kind of entrepreneurial, but it's kind of just like self-help, but it's doing things on their time. Have you ever heard that statement? Take when something comes up, take care of it then because it's on its time, it came up, rather than putting it off and you're doing something later and you have to take care of it on your time.
Right, right.
Oh, I took the Tesla in for an inspection, and the tires failed inspection. I knew they weren't great, but they failed.
Okay.
And the guy at the place where I did it, I'll take my stuff there to get the inspection, but I don't like having service done there. So he's like, I can have them tomorrow, blah blah blah, and I didn't want to do that. So I was like, nope, okay. So I get a hold of Discount Tire. Discount Tire's like, oh yeah, you can have your tires tomorrow, blah blah blah, but they didn't have an appointment till today.
Okay.
So we drove to Nashville and we drove back, and about 20 miles outside of Asheville, North Carolina, the tire went. So
Oh
it's
no.
Sunday night in North Carolina with stranded on the side of the road.
And
So
Teslas don't have spares, right?
do not have spare. It's a computer and a battery with some chairs
Hmm.
on top of it.
Yeah, yeah.
it was an exciting time, and just the last couple of days have just been chaos for me getting everything figured out. And we had to rent a car to get home, and the Tesla was in Nashville, and so I picked up the tires because they already paid for here, but they wouldn't fit in the Porsche. So Gina had to run over there with a rental car and put them in there. So it's just like a lot of moving parts. I mean, we got through it and everything, but it was just if I would have done it right then, like when it came up, just said, okay, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow, put the tires on, it's all
Right,
good.
right.
Instead, I put it off. And it was only a week, but putting another 1,000 miles on it just was too many.
Yeah. How does that work with the Tesla with like roadside service? I assume your insurance, like most of them, has like automatic roadside service, or Tesla
Yeah, you
has
get like
roadside service.
3 miles through AAA. So they told me 3 miles and I pay for the rest.
But they don't just change. I thought they would just change the tire out
For what?
for your
I
insurance. Like
didn't
they'll
have I didn't
that.
have it's a tire, even the discount tire in Asheville didn't have any.
Oh, okay.
That's why they couldn't put them on Monday. They said, "Oh, we can have it ordered in from Cincinnati, or you can grab the ones from there and bring it by later today or tomorrow." So that's why I was up early. We had them already. We were over
Yeah.
there.
So the roadside service doesn't cover them finding you a new Tesla tire or whatever.
Yeah, no new tire because it had to be changed,
Yeah,
like off
yeah.
rim and everything.
We had one once where, because we always get that, where the tire went flat on the motorhome. We called them up and they had to come out there, and they were, it was seized on. The tire was. They spent an hour trying to get that tire
Oh, so they
unseized.
changed it for you.
Yeah, I'm like, that's what I pay for is for you guys. And they were like, well, it's going to take us an hour and a half to get out there. And I'm like, I'm in a motorhome. I don't care.
That's so
And we
funny.
were like in Hazlitt, so it's not like we were in like a weird spot. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
So if I could give anyone advice for your personal life, for entrepreneurship, I mean, it comes up in business all the time, but when something comes up, just try to take care of it. Do your best to take care of it, because usually, if you have to take care of it later at a different time, it's definitely not as convenient or as easy. Or so that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm right with you. I did that. I Speaking of the motorhome, I damaged my motorhome this last weekend, my barn, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, I have no idea how to fix the motorhome. Which I filed an insurance claim today. We'll see what they do. But I'm looking at the barn, big hole in the barn, and I'm like, that I know how to fix. So I dropped everything I was working on, and I fixed the hole in the barn, and you can barely tell that I ran into my barn.
Well, that's
Uh,
awesome.
but yeah, so how are the fish going?
The fish are going great. I forgot it because I got all that set up last week. So I have 4 pools set up at the warehouse,
Nice.
and I right now I just have fish in one. So I just have my filter in one. I don't have the whole filter system set up yet. I
Okay.
will be doing that. I'd like to say this week, but I might not get to it till next week. But yeah, so the first day I put them in, and they hang over the shelves like just a little bit. So this is
Okay.
for anyone who hasn't listened to old episodes, for breeding fish to wholesale to sell, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, things like that to sell to stores. And I have a setup at my warehouse because our miners keep things nice and warm in there, so I don't have to worry about any heaters. But
Right.
anyways, that have kiddie pools, and they were hanging over just a little bit, and I was looking at them, and they fell a little, and I was like, well, they're okay. And I got there the next day, and there was just water all over the place, and I think I lost 10 shrimp, and
Oh no.
I had 5 minnows in there. I lost them. They
Did
all fell.
they just overflow, or did it fail and like break?
It didn't break, but it fell enough to where water was coming out, and
Yeah.
they're close probably, and just onto the floor. So I put some boxes underneath it to stabilize it, and that's been good. That was, all weekend, and it was totally.
Right.
And we have some of the mollies that we had gotten. We have black and orange mollies that are in there, and we still have the ghost shrimp in there, and a ton of plants. And I have a bunch of places with plants. And actually, someone was getting a hold of us today. They were getting rid of some convict cichlids, so we're like, yeah, as many as you want to give us if you're just trying to get rid of them. So we may be breeding some convict cichlids.
So is your main goal to sell these to pet stores,
That's one of the main goals. Yes.
or would you sell it to people like on the internet?
Yes. Both.
How do you ship them on the internet? That question came up from one of my daughters recently. They're like, how do you ship those? Or maybe it was my
What
wife.
what we have seen, especially when it's really like the warmth of the summer, we were getting boxes. They had the styrofoam inside of them, and then the bags were just tied up, and it's just shipped next day.
Okay.
Now we'll order plants. So plants can be, we've had plants hit or miss. Like they don't usually ship plants overnight. So we've gotten some plants from California. It's just a stinky mess when we get it. But any of the fish that we've ordered has all been shipped, next day. And you just pay for it. I mean, I've paid for it because I'd like to get live fish.
Yeah.
When I got my discus in, they were just coming from Myrtle Beach, which isn't too far. It was overnighted, but they even came with heaters inside there to make sure the water stayed warm for
Oh,
them, little hand heaters. So it just depends on the kind of fish as well. And I know a lot of places they won't ship like if it's certain too high or too low of temperature where they're going or where they're at. So
sure. Like in the middle of winter in Michigan, they're not going to ship
yeah.
the
Yep.
fish there. That kind of makes sense.
So yeah,
Interesting.
that's a wholesale um online to people, and then, possibly a store, much further down the road.
Nice. Nice. Like your own fish store.
Hmm.
So not just supplying it to the fish places, but having your own
Yeah.
like deal.
Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely talked about that, which is why it circles back around to the job. Although I was giving the general manager a hard time, and I still haven't heard it. I mean, it's just not might not meant to be, and that's totally fine if I don't get that. I'm not going to beg for the job,
Right.
but I was in there giving him a hard time last week.
Nice.
Very so understaffed.
Yeah, so understaffed. Why didn't you
Those
call
those
me?
bathrooms need to be cleaned.
That's awesome. I uh I had an interesting text message thread going. A guy, this as I've said before, people will contact me about buying my properties.
Hmm.
And I had somebody contact me and they were like, "Hey, so we're interested in your 4 unit.
Okay.
Are you willing to sell?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm always willing to sell if it's the right price." I'm like, "But I'm not like looking to sell." I go, "There's no reason to sell."
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Well, can you give me some information?" I'm like, "Yeah. What do you want to know?" And so he was like, "What's rents? Like, what's the layout?" And I'm like, this,
Mhm.
this. And finally, he's like, "Okay, if you were to sell, ballpark, what would you want?" And I'm like, 200K, you know, probably fine. Thinking that, most of these people are trying to lowball, so I figured they would just go away. And he wrote back and, was like, "Okay, so I want to set up a phone call tomorrow. Can we do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm available between noon and 3.
Hmm.
So you can call me between then." And they're like, "Okay, we will set that up." I'm like, "Great." They haven't called yet. So
Oh, he was supposed to call today between noon and
it
3.
was yesterday, noon and 3.
Oh
So
man.
I was like, "Dang it." Like, I was like, man, I had told my wife and I were talking before, and we were like, we'd probably be happy with 180. 180, we'd probably make a little bit of profit on it. You know, get one less headache, pay some
Hmm.
college bills for the girls. She
Yeah,
goes,
exactly.
put some into crypto. I'm like, right. So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. So and so when he asked, I was like, yeah, like 200, because I think on Zillow it's worth like 225, right?
Okay.
But I don't, it's Zillow. I don't care about that. So I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
200 will be fine.
Yeah,
But who knows? Maybe they'll call back. So
that'd be awesome.
it'd be fun, right? To get a little extra cash to play with. Again, we're talking about 10xing money here. And, $100 is fun to 10x and get it to 1,000. $100,000, 10x, and that would be sweet.
Yeah, that's super awesome.
And it should work the same, right?
Hmm.
Shouldn't it? Like,
I mean, if you're putting 1 million into each trade, you might be a market maker, but if you're putting
But if you're only putting 10,000 in each trade,
exactly.
then you're not a market maker, right? And that's one of the things about those bots, right? Like, honestly, if your bot is shit, if your bot is APRing 10%,
Hmm.
everybody would love that, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, that's, get an Ethereum bot right now and let it ride,
Yeah, exactly.
let it ride through the merge. You'll be happy
Hmm. Yep.
and not get liquidated and just keep making that APR the whole time. So
Yeah.
always good thoughts, always good thoughts. All right, any last minute parting thoughts, Kilted?
Nothing I can think of. It was I mean, it was an eventful weekend for me. I didn't spend much time in the charts though, or anything like that. And I wasn't looking at my bots. There was internet, but I mean, we were hanging out and having family time. So
Right.
it was
That's cool. That's cool. Well, thank you all for joining us on this episode of the Kilted Balls podcast. Hope we provided you with some insight and things to think about. Stay tuned on our channel, subscribe so you can see all of the minis. We're posting 1 to 3 minis a day with all of our trades and thoughts that we have, so you can stick with us on there. So, anyway, this is Ballbuster signing off.
Filter Dragon Jerry. Love you all.